Brian, how long have you been with the Rolling Stones? Are you one of the original members?
Yes, one of the original members.
What were you doing before you joined?
Well, just sort of bumming around waiting for something to happen, really.
At the age of just 19, Brian formed the Rolling Stones. They were the first of their kind.
Mick and Keith absolutely loved Brian. He had all the girls and he had all the fan mail.
Brian's rivalry with Mick, the leadership of the Stones, was growing. A visible friction grew up between them.
I'm very curious. I've taken a sort of an informal poll of friends of all ages, and no one knows who Brian Jones is, the founder of the world's greatest rock and roll band. Is that a reason why you did this? I mean, I guess he's obscure now.
Well, yes, he is obscure. And also, I guess it was meeting him and feeling that there was a very interesting story about somebody who had the vision to form unbelievable band, who has been completely forgotten by history, really, who obviously was somebody who had a great lot of talent and a lot of shortcomings.
Brian Jones was my favorite. I thought he was just the bee's knees. And I guess a lot of women agreed with me. Plus, he was a very remarkably talented and curious musician, a superior musician. And I mean, am I reading it wrong to say that Jagger was a bit irked by this and hence the competition to run the band?
I think at the beginning there was Brian was the leader of the Stones, and he was the one who made the bookings and also decided what they would play. Once Andrew Loog Oldham joined the Stones, he was much more enchanted with Mick than he was with Brian and promoted Mick. And so there was a real rivalry between them, which obviously Brian lost. Yeah. And then I think he sort of imploded. I mean, it took a few years, but that's what happened.
That for sure. I'm certain of it. And his terrible relationship with his father, which, later we find out the father regretted. I mean, it seems inevitable, but you say in the documentary that Brian Jones was the first rock and roll drug casualty. That's right. Astounding.
Well, I think it was a time when people really didn't know the effects of a lot of the drugs. And there was there wasn't any drug counseling. There wasn't proper rehab. There wasn't all those support kind of groups that we have now. And it was all kind of like virgin territory, really. And I think, his demise was a kind of wake-up call that it wasn't going to, you couldn't just carry on and do what you wanted to do because you'd pay for it.
Yes, precisely. And because Brian Jones isn't known now, obviously the documentary is going to make a difference and people will get to know him. And I mean, that makes me really happy to know that this magical person with so much talent and who was the first white musician that I know of who did world music will be celebrated again. Is that your hope?
Well, yes, I think I think he deserves to get the credit of starting the band and adding some real musical talent to those early numbers that he had such a big influence on. The Painted Blacks, Ruby Tuesday, his love of these strange, quirky instruments that made the Stones' music so distinctive and so on. And I think I think he deserves that credit and the vision that he had to actually put together an R&B group. I think when they started, Alexis Corner had sort of an R&B, but it was much older people. And Brian did sort of have the vision that starting a kind of their age group would have an amazing audience. It wasn't trad jazz or something, which is what other people were playing. And he was right. I mean, obviously, Mick and Keith and the others loved it too, but he was the one who actually got it together.
He had an interesting life. He had 5 children, 5 different women. He was beloved in many quarters. I mean, that's kind of cold comfort. It's not like he got to last past 27. Do you think he he had a quality life for the most part until the drugs happened.
I think he was sort of agitated, pretty much. I think he was somebody who, there was always a problem. There was always something that wasn't quite right. He was sort of dissatisfied. I think one of the girlfriends said his mind was always somewhere else as well. He wasn't very present. He was always worried about something.
These days, maybe he could have been treated for anxiety. I mean,
well, exactly. I think, and obviously he had a very complex relationship with his parents. And
you got to speak with his daughter. How many of the kids did you meet, and how did you feel about interviewing them?
The kids didn't know Brian at all. He didn't really have a relationship with them. So there wasn't a lot that I mean, it kind of be a different film about the legacy that he'd left them with.
Right.
So,
That's so sad. Yes.
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of them have had rather a hard time.
You mentioned the fact that he died in the swimming pool at Cotchford Farm, his home. Now, I'd heard rumors of murder before. Were you able to wipe that off the table?
I looked into all those theories and I read the books and talked to some of the people. And I just didn't really feel there was any validity to it. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time in the film, looking into something only to discount it.
Yes. Oh, good. I'm relieved to hear that. However, Cotchford Farm today is a B&B, and they cash in on the fact that Brian Jones was there and died in the pool. What do you think?
Is that really? It's a B&B now. I didn't know that it's a B&B now. Is it?
Yeah.
Because it used to be A.A. Mills' house at one point.
Yes. Yes. His picture's up too, but it's mostly about Brian, which.
How creepy.
Yeah.
No, it is creepy. It's not something to celebrate.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Inappropriate, really.
Well, Nick, honestly, so many emotions watching this. So many emotions and so many memories. I'll never forget my mother telling me he was dead. It was so sad. Thank you for making this. I was so happy to see it.
That was the pleasure. Thank you so much. Very nice.
Thank you.
A rock group is sort of like a primitive tribe. Their whole lifeblood comes from that bond. Once nobody wants to talk to them, they just go off into the woods and die.
I felt sorry for him for what we did to him. We took this one thing away, which was being in a band.
If you had it to do all over again, do you think you'd go the same route again as far as, now that you realize the demands that are put on you as a tremendous success?
I'd do it 100 times over if I could. I love it.